Alright, bear with me. I'm sick, so it's going to be a little difficult for me to talk about this. But it's just something I have to talk about regardless. Because in one of my recent videos, I talked about Saudi Arabia investing into gaming. And I think it's a good move on their part, just as a nation, because, I mean, they have a lot of oil. They effectively have a money printing machine, money printing hack, and that's oil. But a lot of countries are moving to either refining their own oil or moving to more greener sources of energy. So when that happens, Saudi Arabia would be in the dust. So I think, I don't know if it's the president or the prime minister or the leader of Saudi Arabia is making good moves. And obviously there's going to be issues because if you want LGBT representation in games, well, you're not going to like what Saudi Arabia has to say about those particular things. But now we see that China is now investing in the games. It's like, okay, like Marvel Rivals. And Marvel Rivals is made by a Chinese company. And what is it? Well, it's effectively an Overwatch clone. But it does most of the things that Overwatch do. I mean, it has aesthetically pleasing characters. It has an interesting mechanic where if two characters use their abilities at the same time, they can I do like a combo. Now I'm looking at this, I'm like, well, see, if Western entertainment didn't decide to take a back seat, like this is something Disney could have, or Marvel could have absolutely done. Like this is effectively a money printing machine, but we see that they're unable to do things like this, right? Like they're unable to make products that reflect the consumer, and it's real difficult to have this conversation because you have the individuals that have like their mental illnesses and their pronouns in the bio. And if you're like, yeah, people just like hot characters, hot looking women in games and in fiction, they will have a fucking meltdown because, again, you're just incapable of having these types of discussions with those types of individuals. But again, that's one of the things Marvel Rivals does correctly. Like it has, hot characters, it has aesthetically pleasing characters. And you look at most other games coming from China and come from South Korea, right? Like the First Ascendant is a South Korean game. I'm playing a game called Girls Frontline 2, aesthetically pleasing characters, Zaneless Zone Zero, Nikkei. I mean, y- at one point you have to have the discussion as to why people never played Concord, but people will gladly play Marvel Rivals and old Overwatch, despite them effectively being the same type of game, the hero shooter type deal. And aesthetics is just one part of the argument, but I think for most people, the aesthetics is the driving factor. Like you have Nikkei, and Nikkei has a fucking amazing story. Like Goddess of Victory Nikkei, the story is amazing. Yeah, it's effectively ass jiggle simulator, but you come for the aesthetics and you stay for the fucking amazing story. And I mean, Zaneless Zone Zero, the story's meh, but the waifus are okay. And Girls Frontline 2 is. I'm only a couple hours into it, but I'm hooked. And you look at games like these, and you're like, Western entertainment can absolutely do this, right? But they refuse to. Like AAA gaming companies refuse to adhere to the consumer. They'd rather adhere to a loud minority of individuals, so like consultants, people on Twitter, and those types of individuals for the type of products they have to make, and then they act surprised that no one buys their games, no one buys their products. It's like, let's look at the Squirrel Girl. Like everyone's flipping out about Squirrel Girl. Where is she? Yeah, this character right here. And again, things like this, you can sell shirts, sell merchandise, sell figurines, and those things, selling those things offset the price of the product itself. Right? And it makes it to where it doesn't have to be $120 fucking dollars to purchase the game. It's $60. Then if you want to buy the merch, that's another type of pricing. And you just make money for free. It's effectively just free money. And if people like the game, they'll gladly, tell it to other people and advertise the game for free. And I even said this at work, but people are like, oh, it's the CCP. They're going to take your data and all that. And I'm like, oh, so the thing Activision, BioWare, EA already does, the thing Ubisoft does in just about every single social media site that you're on does. It's like at the end of the day, I just want good games. And I've never played Marvel Rivals, but I see how absolutely good the game's being. And I'm like, well, what's the reason? And aesthetics is definitely one of them. And the fact that all these characters look cool. I mean, I don't know, Iron Man looks a bit round. But whatever. I mean, it's not supposed to be a one for one. But you'll see this character, right? And oh, this is Captain America. This is Scarlet. This is Storm. This clearly is Hulk. And they can clearly just add more characters. And I also seen that now there are mods being added to the game. So that's going to be its own thing. And it's just going to add to the expansion of the game. Because again, people are just going to keep latching on and on. You see a lot of VTubers play this game. You see a lot of like political YouTubers that I played recommend this game and play this game. And it's just going to grow from there. And this is something Western media can absolutely learn from. But it's almost like they refuse to learn from actual decent products. And this is still a Marvel product. If you don't care for Marvel, whatever. But you have to think, Marvel could have done something like this. And it could have been successful. But no, I guess it's up to China to make the products the Westerners actually want to play. It's up to Japan or South Korea. Well, I know that a lot of Western companies are investing into Japan now, and with that comes the censorship and all that. So I think in the next couple of years, even anime and products from Japan is going to go down, and it's going to be up to China and South Korea or other companies on the planet to take up the role. But, the fact that there's still good products coming out, they're just not coming from the West. They are, but they're coming from indie devs. They're coming from other countries on the planet, right? They're coming from companies, indie companies made from devs that used to work at Blizzard that are now coming together to make games. They're coming from complete nobody YouTubers, and people are actually buying that. It's like, there's no way that companies do not know what the consumer likes or what the consumer wants. It's just they refuse to give it to the consumer. And it's also the fact that they're not selling an essential product. Like, I can go the rest of my life without consuming a single Ubisoft product. Oh, and it turns out Tencent wants to buy Ubisoft. So a a Chinese company wants to buy out Ubisoft. So maybe then you'll actually have decent products come from there. I mean, maybe. I mean, we don't know if that'll actually happen. But I think it's probably in the works. But then you have Katakawa being bought out by Sony, which is totally a Japanese company, despite moving to California and inducting that odd fringe culture. So, and it's sad that this is where gaming has become just companies buying out companies, IPs buying out IPs. And it turns out Ubisoft is probably going to have to start selling its IPs. I mean, it's very sad, but hey, it's just sort of the situation we're in. But that's all I gotta say about this. I mean, it's very odd, and I do recommend this game, Marvel Rivals. But anyway, that's all I gotta say about this. Peace.